Whatever you please. I know that at least one question has come up about using, well, who is using any of these technologies? I hope Sean will make it back. I know he had some very key questions. Is he?
Yeah, that's the same question we want to know.
That you want to know, okay, and you can relay it to him? Okay. Are there any requests about what takes place next, be it discussion, be it hackathon, be it quiz show, be it what you name it? This is now your event.
I'm particularly interested in who uses bhyve in any
Survey says this question. So, okay, let's perhaps just go around the room passing the mic. Let us know what hypervisor you are using, and it can be any technology, and let her rip.
Hi, my name is Mariusz. I'm using bhyve, mostly for development purpose, and I'm less obvious use. I'm also using bhyve for emulating Windows to edit photos. So, yeah.
Hi, Benedikt Reuschling. I work for the foundation. In my not FreeBSD Foundation activities, I work for the University of Applied Sciences, managing their big data cluster. And yes, I'm using bhyve, mainly because we don't have that many nodes available for the number of students that want to do, big data, NoSQL, Hadoopy things. And I found bhyve to be relatively good for that. So this last semester in the winter, we had a project with an external company for our master students, and they wanted to do something with DCOS, the data center OS. I don't know specifics, but they wanted to have 16 nodes, which I didn't have. So I said, okay, do you need to do any kind of performance work in this? They said, no. Okay, I can now give you a couple of machines. So I started a couple of bhyves. I used VM bhyve, and I created a short tutorial. Michael, should I do this now? It's a 9-slide presentation.
Let's go around the room,
okay.
And then you can set up while we're kind of
all right.
finishing up.
I found this to be quick and easy, and I didn't have to do much to manage this throughout the semester. So, but my production is pretty much going only for like 3 or 4 months at most. So it's nothing like at scale or that's on the internet or something.
If they said, you mentioned, you asked if they needed it for performance reasons?
Yeah.
If they said yes, what would you have done differently?
Then I would not have used bhyve.
Okay. What would you
Because the emulation layer is there still. But the question is, the performance benchmarking they are doing is mostly in the database layer with these NoSQL databases. I should benchmark this a little bit more to see what the real loss is there if you use bhyve instead of the bare metal. Could be a thing I could use a bit of dtrace to figure out what the losses are. But in general, I like the stability of bhyve, and it's easy to get started with.
Hi everyone, I'm Ruben. Am I the only Aussie in the room here? I think it might be. This is my first conference of anything like this. I definitely, on the scale of users to developers, I'm very much in the users camp. So I work at a cloud company in Australia, but they have an office in San Francisco as well. And the other confession is we use Linux Zen, unfortunately. I'm the only FreeBSD advocate in the company. But we've actually seen quite an uptick of, thank you. I was actually talking to the co-founder a couple of years ago, and he said that if he was confident in the InfiniBand driver support for FreeBSD, he probably would have used that back in the day to do stuff. But yeah, I think he said NetApp has drivers, but they've closed sourced it or something. It's a bit above my pay grade. Anyway, yeah, so I came in and basically built our FreeBSD, NetBSD templates on the platform, so when people want to spin up VMs, they can use that. And honestly, most people are using either FreeNAS or FreeBSD, and it's honestly just because ZFS is the only thing people trust. and then using the Galley encryption under that. So mostly I just came here just to see what the state of the art was and actually see some of the people behind the scenes who actually build all the stuff that basically I make a living on. So I appreciate all the work that you guys do, and yeah, thank you.
Great, and if you need like any support, like to change your boss mind,
yeah,
like, you can ping all these gentlemen. They're gonna mentor to you.
Yeah, I was saying before, it can be quite a lonely existence being, because we just had Linux Conf AU in Sydney a couple of weeks ago, and I was sort of wandering around with a Beastie shirt on, and half the people there didn't even know what that was, which was sad. Anyway, so no, thanks.
Have you heard the name Jason Tubner?
Yes.
Do check out his talk from BSD Cannes last year. It was all the things in so far as he is doing now for 26 installations. He's helping the social services of Australia, about which I know nothing. However, Australia is pretty big, and a data center can be a metal shed in the middle of a desert.
Yep, I wouldn't put it past him.
So he's working with mostly fanless hardware, with bhyve and ZFS, OpenBSD and a VM for an IPsec connection home, and then they have a very good deal on Windows licenses, so in another VM, Windows. And it is checking the printer's level, supply levels. And he's using the best tool available for each of those functions in a robust system at 26 locations, and it just
That's fantastic.
made my year. So I can put you in touch with him. And,
yeah, please, yeah, that'd be great. Well, the other very quick story is that I heard it was and I was talking with a couple of people here about it, but the Australian Tax Office last year had a pretty severe disaster. I don't know if some of you have heard this, but they basically built a giant HP Enterprise SAN cluster and put all, like, how many years worth of tax records on it, and the whole thing crapped to the bed and failed and hosed all the data. And so as far as I know, they're still recovering from tape as we speak, after how many months this happening. So yeah, maybe if you use ZFS or something, it might not have been quite as much of a disaster, but yeah. Anyway, sorry, I'll stop hogging.
What was the cloud house? What company?
Orion VM, we're sort of 15 people. So most of our R&D and engineering happens in Sydney, and then we've got a sales team in San Francisco. So it's mostly, I guess, the founders like to say that they invented hyperconverged before that was a term. Yeah, now it's old hat and everyone does it. But at the time, the idea of sort of merging multiple nodes together and using InfiniBand so that you'd replicate the storage across multiple nodes. So if a node went down, you could reboot the VM elsewhere on another node and it would come up within seconds. In 2011, that was sort of a big deal. But, I think everyone does that now to an extent. But
thank you.
Hi, I'm Ryan Haraschak. Professionally, we're a Windows shop, and so Hyper-V, but I've been able to place some FreeBSD systems on top of Hyper-V and then Jails on top of that. Freelance is all FreeBSD with Jails, and for bhyve, I just installed it, so that's about my use.
I'm Sam Guider. I work for Joyent. We use bhyve on 2 different operating systems, on FreeBSD and Lumos/SmartOS. We're attempting to run the entire cloud on bhyve. That's why I'm interested in this question. I was hoping there's somebody else trying something as crazy. What else is part of this question? Who else is using it and how are we using it? Yeah, so I mostly to run Linux guests actually, with optionally GPUs passed through.
And you're welcome to talk about a friend of a friend that's using any of these technologies, because maybe you individually aren't, but you know someone who is, and all of these precedences are extremely valuable.
Yep, and then I guess at home I've used Hyper-V to run pfSense and Fusion on my desktop to develop.
My name is Alan Jude. I'm the FreeBSD committer, and I run a video streaming company. We've used bhyve in the past to For video transcoding, the software we use for that is proprietary and so shipped as a binary and only works on Linux. So the most part of the video server is Java and runs on FreeBSD fine, but the bit to do live video transcoding to do lower bit rates for cell phones and so on in live video was Linux specific, but I didn't want to give up the entire machine to Linux. Specifically, wanted real ZFS for storage and so on. So we created bhyve VMs with most of the CPU through it. We were, I think, the first people to hack bhyve to do more than 16 CPUs. Because we had 24 cores on the host and we wanted all of them. Because at the time we were transcoding the video on the CPU. We have since switched to using NVIDIA GPUs, and since GPU pass-through for FreeBSD isn't a thing yet, we're sadly running Linux on the bare metal for those, but hope to someday get back to having a real operating system as the base. Yes, soon, I hope.
So you guys saw my talk. Mike Larkin, BSD developer. Use a lot of VMM. Actually, I use just about everything. Do a fair amount of Zen at work, and I'm also, in my spare time, an adjunct faculty at San Jose State University in California, where I teach in the master's program, and I teach virtualization. So I show bhyve and VMM and Zen, KVM, and everything, pretty much everything that has source code available. Do some Hyper-V stuff as well, but my number of Windows machines is now down to 1 or 2. So yeah, I kind of use everything. I guess that's it.
Hi, I'm Alex. I'm a student and I'm using bhyve when I'm doing development for bhyve.
Hello, so my name is Mihai. Other than being assistant professor at the university, I'm also one of the sysadmins. We basically use a lot of hypervisors. Not so much bhyve in production. As I was stating earlier, for example, if we would have a functional livret for bhyve, it would be easily integrated in our cloud, OpenStack cloud. Right now we are using KVM for the OpenStack. It relates very good with the OpenStack. We are also using Hyper-V. We received some free licenses, and we are using the high available feature for live migrating virtual machines when the node fails and so on. It behaves very well. And we are running a lot of BSD flavors on top of Hyper-V. OpenBSD, FreeBSD, pfSense, and so on. So basically, we have a lot of labs which are using BSD distributions, and they didn't want to keep their servers in their labs anymore, and they want to move them into the data center, and I propose them let's virtualize. And basically, we virtualized every BSD distribution that was running on Hyper-V and KVM, and it worked okay. I'm using bhyve for development, but I would put it in production if I would have the right interfaces. For example, for KVM Kemu, it is libvirt. Okay, at Kemu, the command line is bigger than bhyve. Let's face it. If we look right now on Node, we will see 4 or 5 lines of options. So if we will have the proper integration with other frameworks, maybe it will be used more in production. So this is all from my side.
Hello, I'm Elena. I use bhyve for development, and of course with FreeBSD with bhyve.
Hi, I'm Darius, and I'm not really using any of them except bhyve for development on ARM devices. Well, actually, fast models, but hey, that's close enough to ARM itself.
Hello, my name is Yoshiyuki Araka. I'm freelance and not for free user. Sometimes using use bhyve. Thank you.
I'm Colin. I make FreeBSD work in EC2. I do use it a little bit as well. I run you may have heard of an online backup service called Tarstamp, seen it in Macro People's t-shirts. If anybody knows anyone in a large Australian government agency which needs better backups, I don't have to use any of this stuff directly. I'm only using Zen via EC2. Although I'm hoping that I will get bhyve running on Amazon's bare metal instances so that we can run bhyve in EC2. We'll see.
I'm Marcelo, I work for X-System. That's the biggest sponsor of FreeNAS and TrueNAS. So I use mostly bhyve all my time. So all my developing machines, they are virtual machines. So I have a FreeNAS mean, and I also have some other embedded device. It's actually not embedded device, small factory machines. And I try to virtualize everything. So like my working ports, my working source, everything is virtual machines. And most of them are FreeBSD. And a couple Windows for testing.
Hi, I'm Manu, I'm a FreeBSD developer. For that I sometimes use bhyve. I also work at Gandhi, we are a registrar and a hosting company. And for that we use Zen. Why Zen? For a lot of reasons, I will explain. We use Linux DOM 0. And we use Zen because we want to be able to live migrate. This is really important. We don't want to reboot client VM every time a problem appears or XSA, so the Zen security advisory appear. And mainly we want to be able to live patch Zen for every XSA. So we don't even have to live migrate the client in case of a problem.
Do you have Windows VMs? Or
No.
Windows okay.
Well, it's possible, but we don't offer Windows. But I don't think any client did try.
I was just because one of the reasons we haven't rolled out live migration on ours is literally just because Windows works about 90% of the time, which isn't good enough. So sometimes it just hangs and crashes, and we have to start again. And it's not a good. So Linux is fine.
During your live migration?
Correct. Yeah. So
okay.
Yeah, I'm not one of the kernel guys.
With external storage?
Yeah.
External storage?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just if anyone uses it with Windows, I'd just be interested to hear. But it seems like most people who do use it aren't dealing with Windows guests, so that might be part of it. Another reason. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Michael Julian, I'm a FreeBSD developer, but FreeBSD is just my hobby, I don't use it at work. But sometimes I use bhyve, because my laptops all running just FreeBSD 12 current, not 10, not 11, and sometimes I need to prepare some virtual machine for monitoring, because I'm a performance engineer. I prepare these images, pull all packages what I need, something like Grafana, Prometheus, and so on this virtual machine, pack it, and send to deployment team. So I use bhyve for my end-to-end daily tasks.
Yeah, Philip again. I'm the technical lead at sys5.com, and the name might indicate it. We started as a Solaris shop using Zunes as virtualization. Most of you might know where J's are coming from. Over the years we migrated to Linux Xen server or Citrix Xen server. Controlled by the cloud stack. We are now looking into migrating maybe into Linux KVM because XSAs are coming in way too fast. But Manu is fixing that. Maybe we can stick with it.
User issue are solved, so
yeah, but yeah, weekly patching of hypervisors is just not fun. So
Yeah, well, you will have some weekly patching of the Linux kernel.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, yeah, but we are running like dozens to over 100 hypervisor machines now, and it's just getting painful.
Yeah, we have more.
Yeah.
And it's painful, yes.
Yeah.
That's why you need live patching.
Yeah. And we are running that across data centers in all of Europe, and we are going intercontinental this year. So all those locations are protected by OpenBSD firewalls, of course. Yeah, we will see where the journey ends.
Hello, I'm Akira Kawakami, a mobile software developer. To be honest, I'm quite newbie to bhyve and DMM, while I've been a user for BSD systems for a long time. The reason I'm here this time is to learn bhyve and VMM technologies, so I can start using such technologies in my software development environment. Thank you.
My name is Dylan. By day, I'm an attorney. By night, I run a small listings, rules, compliance, regulatory compliance company that does video training. It's a small business. We have 3 Supermicro boxes, all with FreeBSD hosts. We use IOCell mostly. It's mostly set up as jails. But we have 2 bhyve environments, essentially running Ubuntu Linux machines for Kaltura and also for our PBX. But most of it is running in jails.
You are running a PBX in a VM?
Yes.
You don't have any
Small, no. It's
Okay.
Fusion PBX running inside.
You don't have any latency or whatever?
Fine. Small number of calls. I mean, concurrent calls, 5. So we're not talking. It's a small company.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So we may need to scale to our own box later on. Separate box later on.
Yeah.
For now, it's fine.
Go bare metal.
Pardon?
Go bare metal.
Go. Yeah. When we can afford it.
So I'm Gavin Atkinson. I don't use bhyve massively. I use it for testing locally, mostly on my laptop when I need to just spin up a new machine. But I don't do anything sort of at scale. I certainly realise how good the project is for FreeBSD though, and how valuable it is for us.
Next question.
Ooh, Dexter.
Me?
Yes.
I simply twist arms for brilliant developers to come up with remarkably useful things and just reap the benefits. My concern this last year has been regression testing and hunting, and I invite you to my talk bright and early tomorrow morning at AsiaBSDCon, where I will talk more about that and the different philosophies at hand and the challenges at hand, based on some somewhat painful real-world experiences with these technologies. I've heard mention of ZFS a few times. Show of hands, who's using it? Anyone? Anyone? Oh, sorry. Who's not using ZFS? We have an OpenBSD developer. Okay. Half a hand up. Okay.
It died when we pushed out Solaris.
It's available elsewhere, but yeah, Solaris was the traditional source of that.
One of the reasons I don't use it, especially on my laptop, is because there's all these rumors floating around, maybe the rumors, maybe the truth, that if you don't have tons of memory, you don't have really good memory, and you can run yourself into the ground really easily. And so I do have some machines at work that I could use it on, but I don't because, quite frankly, I'm worried. How much of a bull-wise tale is that?
It's pretty much all fun.
Okay.
Fair enough. This laptop, well, 16 gigs is relatively beefy for a laptop, but you know, lots of people run it on DigitalOcean VMs with 1 gig of RAM.
Okay.
You can control. There's a sysctl
So
that
it's a bunch of
controls.
nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, by default, it will try to use 99% of your RAM, and that might not be good. In the past, it's been especially bad about not necessarily giving up the RAM when it was intended, like it should. That's much better in 11.1 and later.
A lot of folks on packages and stuff saying, "Oh, if you're leaving it
ZFS needs everything."
It's gonna lose all your data.
Yeah, ZFS hasn't lost anybody's data unless they shot themselves on the foot. There was quite a bit of FUD about, oh, if you don't have ECC RAM, somehow it's magically going to corrupt all your data. It turns out that, you know, you're still better off with ZFS if you have memory errors than with another file system that's not going to notice that you're having memory errors. At least ZFS will sound the alarm when it's, you know, getting back data that doesn't make any sense. But yes, the defaults in FreeBSD maybe are too aggressive. They're the defaults from upstream Solaris OpenZFS. But you can set the maximum. So on my laptop, because I want to run some VMs, I tell ZFS you can only have up to 4 gigs of my RAM. Yeah, highly recommend for laptops. And there's another sysctl in FreeBSD, the arc free target. It's slightly confusingly is configured in pages, not bytes. But it lets you dictate how much, when the free memory level drops below that target, ZFS will start freeing memory from the cache back to the system, so you can make sure you always have 2 gigs available for whatever other processes you need on your system. Right? The default is 10% higher than the level where the page daemon kicks in, but you might want it slightly more aggressive depending on, you know, how many browsers you're going to have open, and if you're going to need 8 gigs of RAM just for your web browser, you might want a bit less for everything.
The other one is, it takes a while for the wired memory for ZFS or to come down.
So that's where the arc free target one triggers the K-min reap. Hopefully we can get that to be a little better as well. The reason why it's not done more aggressively was one that Joyent found on Illumos as well, where if you trigger it wrong, it will just go to sleep for or pause everything for a couple of minutes and free like 40 gigs of RAM when you only needed half a gig. It was a bit pathological. But it worked. I did that without the best. They're helpful for that.
This is just a nice little freebie.
Well played. Yeah, so, you know, I have all my little X220s running with their, you know, they only have 4 or 8 gigs of RAM, and it works fine. Especially useful if you have older hard drives you don't trust as much.
Where there was an issue was on i386. I don't know who has those. The number of KVA pages becomes a problem. So
yeah.
That's on i386 you have an issue, but
yes.
on AMD64 not so much.
Yeah, that's, you know, you only have so much virtual address space, and you want. There was also a bigger problem in the past with ZFS where it needed contiguous ranges of memory. You know, if your record size is 128K and you want a whole bunch of 128K contiguous chunks of memory, that can get, fragmentation can get to be a problem. Now with the ABD feature, it uses scatter-gather lists of 4K pages for most of it, so you obviate the need for contiguous memory. Well, you still need some contiguous memory for the last bits, but you lower the pressure a lot.
The motivation for my question is, are you here for the file system or are you here for the hypervisor? FreeBSD with ZFS has both Zen and bhyve, and obviously Illumos and Friends has Zones and up-and-coming bhyve and KVM and SmartOS. Any just open motivators for anyone? Is anyone pursuing these technologies specifically for the file system, and the hypervisor is secondary? I see some hands going up. Okay, cool. That's good to know.
That's a complicated answer.
No question.
That's a complicated question.
No question. I'm just.
It only works if you have all the pieces.
Correct. So, other hot topics and questions. pain points and philosophical discussions on management frameworks and their infrastructure. Yes, sir.
I have a quick question. Is anyone doing performance work on bhyve?
Or all of the things? Yes.
Yeah.
On FreeNAS, yeah, on FreeNAS, it's quite recently, but it's like we are doing a lot of performance because actually we want to use bhyve for everything. Like the QA department, they are doing automation tests for like the FreeNAS interface and everything, the final ISO when we ship this out, and they are virtualizing everything. Everything is with bhyve, and now like because based on FreeNAS we have TrueNAS. That's the product, the enterprise version. So they are doing a lot of performance tests. So it started recently, and like the first issue that we got was the performance of the networking virtualization. So, and it's still new, but like we can see like there are issues here and there that need to be addressed, and it's like yeah, there are issues with performance, like at least for the network. That was the first thing that I heard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys have some solution you're working on?
Not yet. It's very recent.
Okay, so
actually,
we should. I mean,
yeah.
we're already going to talk,
Yeah.
but you're going to.
Yeah, actually, like yeah, because it's different departments. Like as I'm taking care of the feature inside FreeNAS, so the guys came to me like, oh, I'm working on this, I'm working on that. I have this issue, I have that issue. So I know like until now the QA department all virtualized with bhyve. Okay. Then like there is guys working with performance tests. They start to build all the framework to performance test. So and they want to do everything with bhyve.
Yeah, who's doing that?
No, it's Nick Wolf.
Nick Wolf?
Yeah, I can share the contact with you guys later. Like the
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a very good guy. Like
Yep. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll get your performance issues fixed.
Oh, that would be great.
I have workloads to run, so I can tell you.
Oh, that would be great. You guys are doing that.
Do you want to give a couple numbers?
Oh, okay, that would
Well,
be
I mean,
perfect.
you know the numbers off the top of your head, I don't.
Oh, the microphone.
Give me just a second.
Okay, sure.
I run, like, he's talking about network workloads, but, or I guess you're talking about all of them.
Yeah.
But we run
all of it.
real life workloads, like Cassandra workloads.
When we were doing the video transcoding, we found the CPU performance.
Oh, yeah,
the CPU of bhyve is great. It's pretty much like 99.9% of bare metal. But,
yeah. But I think
our demand for the network was never more than like half a gigabit, so it didn't really matter.
Yeah,
And the disks were idle.
I'm not sure if we still have that issue with jumbo frames. Because I remember before, like when you set the...
I think most of the problems with jumbo frames are
and the gas
all
side.
FreeBSD.
No, because it was at the gas side.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it fragmented the package. It's like you can have a jumbo frames, but like you can see the gas, a lot of intensive use
Even
of
a lot of the hardware NICs in FreeBSD won't only do 4K chunks and give you like 3 MBUFs to do a 9K packet. It's
Do you want to?
Yeah, all right. So, yeah, we just reported out on some of the numbers that we did in the past. So I have some of these handy here in a different presentation. So when I mentioned earlier that we did some work with PTNetMap, UVX Bridge, we ended up getting 21 gigabits of unencapsulated host guest-to-guest traffic on the same host. We were able to do 15 gigabits a second of traffic across the wire, guest-to-guest on different boxes.
Using your network solution.
Using the PTNetMap that we picked up from Luigi from the University of Pisa in Italy. But we learned quickly that there was no way to effectively scale that. So don't go down that road. I'm just saying that's a thing. The new hotness is the VPC stuff that we're doing, and we've got 90 gigabits of host-to-host using Chelsea T6 interfaces. We're doing 40 gigabits host-to-host with a 5% packet loss, 43 gigabits encapsulated guest on a single TCP connection right now. So, and then 73 gigabits with multi-stream, and that's unoptimized in every way.
You know, what you run for the benchmark, like
iPerf 3, iPerf 2, or iPerf 2. iPerf 3 it does not let you maximize the throughput of the network because it's a single process. So you have to run like 4 copies of iPerf 3, or you can run 1 copy of iPerf 2 because it actually fork exactly does kind of the right thing. Yeah. There's some other interesting quirks to iPerf that are worth knowing about that are kind of arcane trivia, but yeah, 73 gigabits guest to guest. So that's with new hotness.
Does it have any diesel benchmark?
Yeah, on ArcHit, I think it was 900,000 IOPS a second to stripe to VDEV, or to mirrored VDEVs, mirrored VDEVs. So
4, right?
But we were presenting 4 Z-vols to the guest and then striping across them. The limitation there is in Linux guests. The elevator is not terribly smart when you have an IO stall, as far as we can tell. We didn't do any analysis to kind of arrive at that conclusion other than 1 VDEV, slow, 4 VDEVs, we're getting close to 1 million ops a second. And then when you use Linux guests with FIO and ODirect, we're pushing 50,000 plus IOPS a second and saturating PCI lanes. So yeah, ODirect and guests make actually some amount of sense because you're relying on the hypervisor cache at that point in time.
You're running the iPerf on Linux?
Yeah.
I just got a patch upstreamed into iPerf that solves some problem there, iPerf 3, where when you did parallel mode, Linux will like allocate port numbers that are all even, and so they all hash to one side of like a lag and stuff like that. So I got a patch that you can actually, if you manually set the starting port number, then you get incremental and they actually hash randomly instead of all to one bucket.
That's fantastic.
It's like, iPerf wasn't doing anything wrong. It was just saying, open a socket, open a socket, open a socket. And the Linux kernel is like, I'm going to give you all the sockets in the same domain.
That's
and
fantastic.
It's like all in the same bucket. It's
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's no accounting for poor taste.
Yeah, there's
or maybe there is, and that's why the performance.
There's a patch, recent commit on the iPerf 3 GitHub that, out of my debugging of this, because we were
There's
like, why is iPerf with like 8 threads all going over 1/2 of our lag?
Yeah, there's some goofiness with regards to.
Yeah. So the fix is upstream.
The other one is the listen accept queue. Linux has a different view of
what that means.
Yeah. So.
On a similar note, PF versus IPFW versus other.
Well, for
Not even close.
Not even close. Well, which?
Well, where's Olivier?
Got some numbers?
Yeah,
he's
Olivier's going to do that later. Configuring it.
What was that?
The fastest thing about PF is configuring it.
The only fast thing.
Yeah.
IPFW is
And the only thing that's efficient about it is the file size and the configuration. Not the security, not the nothing.
Specifically FreeBSD PF as opposed to.
I think the difference.
You don't need a second IP stack.
Like 1 million packets a second with PF versus like 11 million packets per second with IPFW.
Wow.
On a 2.5 gigahertz host.
Oh, my mic's not even. Oh, suddenly. Okay, repeat everything from the last half hour. Kidding.
But somewhere Olivier has graphs. I imagine they'll be in this presentation tomorrow, directly after yours. That shows IPFW versus PF in FreeBSD head on Chelsea.
This is worth watching if you care about firewalling performance.
Yeah, because I think it's the first time FreeBSD and IPFW has actually reached line rate 10 gigabit.
Cool.
With IPFW.
Yeah, I think it's better than, but yeah.
Well, yeah, well, once you hit line rate, you need a faster NIC to figure out if you're.
We should work on that.
Yeah. Well, he just doesn't have 40 gig stuff in his lab yet, but we're working on that. Might as well just go straight to 100 gig. Right?
What was it?
Should we help him out?
Yeah, I think we should help him out.
Well, we have 100 gig stuff in the test lab. It's just he's playing with stuff at Orange in France.
Well, we should hook him up with 100. We should hook him up to some 100 gig equipment somewhere.
Yeah, either Sendex or somewhere else or something.
We can work on somewhere else.
Cool.
Okay. So wherever. So we got a trick for performance.
I'm sorry?
I was just gonna say, I mean, we were just winding up the last one. It was like, so we've got something for performance there.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, an open-based DPF could do 50 gigabits, not getting a sweat on single CPU SMPs to the front. So on that side, but it's runtime anyway. Like with virtualization, the tendency to create even many VMs is pretty strong with your customer or whatever. So you have to do housekeeping on the SUE, and there is software like CloudStack, OpenStack, OpenNebula, and I would like to know who's using what or not at all. So who's using CloudStack, OpenStack, or anything like that? Cloud frameworks. They're using OpenStack. Okay. And keeping the stuff under control is done by what? By Goodwill, and configuration of all that is on manually for those without an OpenStack or whatever.
Giant has a different control plane called Triton, and yeah.
That's on the SmartOS.
That's on the SmartOS. Yeah, it's very smart. It's SmartOS specific right now, but I don't know for how much longer that'll be the case. But yeah, that's
yeah, because that's leading to another thing I'm really getting angry about is stuff A is only for universe A, and our configuration and orchestration is in that universe, and everything else is not under our control, and so we don't care about it. If you're using like 3 different universes, well, how do you keep the meta information kind of in sync? That's really a problem for us because we are so heterogeneous in our setups and solutions. And here you have Chef, there you have Ansible, there you have CloudStack configuration. Terraform is just the same. It's yet another tool that says it's my Terraform universe and I don't care.
But it's at least your Terraform universe, not your provider's. I don't know. I don't have an answer for you.
Well, the next thing with Terraform, I was at Foston some weeks ago, and I was asking the Terraform developer, or one of them, like, okay, now I have Terraform with Amazon, maybe AWS. Works perfectly. I have a Terraform, next universe, with CloudStack and Sensor. Works very nice. Now I want a hybrid cloud. Don't do that. No,
that's bad advice. Whoever said that was bad advice.
I need it. Don't tell me not to do it, because I will do it. Because it's remotely possible. So you see, you have your hardware running on your own premises, whatever, but you want to have testing and maybe flow over capacity for special events in AWS, GCE, whatever is coming along. And the whole thing breaks because it's not in their design model or whatever. And then you're getting a step back and trying to configure and automate the configuration of that are doing the actual configuration. It's really a pain in the neck.
No arguments.
Yeah. It sounds like
no one has answers. That's fine with me. It's just not like waking up here, oh, it's very easy, just do that. No, it is not. It's really complicated.
We need to get someone commercially interested in Lindbergh support. Like Red Hat, they were saying over there. Yeah, Red Hat will do it. So, yeah, I'm sure they'll do it.
Yeah, and they will probably really open it. Like,
yeah, of course.
Ansible Power, yeah.
They love BSD over there. It has a red logo too.
It's open with a price tag.
Yeah.
And you have to do it their way. And if it breaks, you open up Auxilla and wait 4 weeks.
Only 4 weeks, pretty quick.
No, waiting for acceptance that, admitting it, there is maybe an issue. Like 4 weeks before you know they are not auto-closing it.
It depends on the scale of your operation. But yeah, no. Part of the problem that everybody's dealing with is everybody's cloud implementation is different. The semantics, the provisioning, the way that things behave, the undefined behaviors or the implied semantics of an API become normalized and expected behavior for a provider, and factoring that out and providing an appropriate layer of abstraction is incredibly difficult. I'm biased just because of familiarity, and I think there's a lack of tooling in this, but Terraform and modules is almost as good as it gets right now. I don't have a better answer though.
I think they are on a good path, and I've seen some hacks around it, and maybe next year it will be looking way better.
Yeah. There's a good blog post recently on the Join blog about Terraform and modules and multiple data centers, and you can use that same composable driver model for different cloud providers, and that's actually a reasonably common thing to do. So, yeah, there's some blood, sweat, and tears, and from a number of people that went into figuring out kind of a way of making playbooks that scale across different data centers and across different cloud providers. So, yeah.
Yeah, part of the problem is the ignorance of the people building whatever software. Like, it only interacts within their own limits, and everything from the outside we don't care. And that's everywhere. Nobody's coming up like we have something open pluggable. That's completely no more hip.
It's the balkanization of cloud.
Yeah, totally. The part of the problem obviously is that nobody can be an expert in all the different cloud technologies.
Yeah, but
there's too many different ones.
But be open to be contacted by an expert and not say, I don't care. And that's 9%
Well,
of the
it's part of the problem of open source is in the end, you're doing it for what you need it for. But
yeah,
yes,
but for 5 years they're talking about open APIs or REST or whatever, but if you
they don't even know what that
if you're playing with it and trying to dig the shit out of it, you will see it's not by any means open or something. It's API to say we have an API.
Is anyone looking at Kubernetes?
Can somebody explain to me what Kubernetes is?
I dropped the mic before it's going to be really ugly. I need more beer before I rant about
But we do have beer in that.
Oh boy.
This is the. I sent it to you on the Slack. Specific.
I mean, that's kind of that's how the problems happen. We're talking about like every single cloud is implemented differently.
Oh yeah.
Like none of them are using, like no one's running a cloud platform on Kubernetes or something like that.
So, I'm aware of at least like 10 different startups that have tried creating like libcloud and like portability abstraction layers. The problem is they're just not usable, right? Because there are these very provider-specific semantics that you're actually depending on, right? And the level, like, it's very, very difficult to get the level of expressiveness that you want through any kind of abstraction layer that would get you what you want. So it's, you know, I think what you're looking for, please don't take offense to this. You're looking for what would be the equivalent of an SQL ORM for cloud providers. But as somebody that's done database work, I think that that's actually an anti-pattern, and ORMs need to go away. You actually are creating tight coupling between your application and the database, and just acknowledge that fact. Then let's go and figure out how to provide similar semantics across different databases, but like, let's stop lying to ourselves and stop assuming that we have this layer of abstraction that's actually providing value.
I have seen that failure more or less when you try to bootstrap, so to say, Open Nebula out of nothing into something useful, because you have to revert all those abstraction layers to get something to use. And the thing is, more or less, you do not need well, you might need something like a little cloud, but you have to make a decision at some point of how many myriads of snowflakes do you want to support. And that's the thing. And the problem with us is the customers are coming to us, and we have a lot of them, and everybody's carrying their own snowflake solution, and they won't cut any piece out of it. So that's the problem, though.
The switching cost and the spin-up cost is what you're trying to optimize.
Yep.
It's easier to just copy and paste and run through it, and it's tedious and irritating, but it's faster, more efficient, and productive, and easier to debug than putting some abstraction layer across multiple things. And that's...
Yeah, the other thing is, and that's more or less maybe nowadays Kubernetes problem is, people are only cut and pasting and having absolutely no idea what's happening.
Stack Overflow fixed it.
Yeah, and if it breaks, and it does break, even if everything is fixed, there are breaks, like physical ones, for example. People are sitting there and say, yeah, well, what now?
Right.
Yep. Okay, so I'm not alone in the paint sector, right?
No, everybody's looking for a magic bullet. I'm not sure that it exists right now.
Okay, so I can get very rich with this whole problem.
Yes, if this is the problem, if this is a pain point, you should go solve it and then tell us how you solved it and then charge us money and we'll pay you for it because it's a problem that everybody's having or going to have, and it's going to get worse.
But like you said, what number did you have? Like 10 or a dozen startups didn't do it?
There have been a number of businesses.
You'll succeed.
Yeah, well, exactly. Well, maybe the problem is I have like 25 years experience in that area, so maybe that can make a difference.
From business economics perspective, if you imagine that you're consuming some commodity resource, right, like AWS or Google or Joint or whoever you're consuming, the problem that you run into there is now you've added this abstraction tax. Right? Somehow you're going to pay for and license this, like, layer. Somebody's got to pay for it, right? Like, as you said, it's not...
No billing.
Right, exactly, yeah. And so now you get squeezed, right? There was a pejorative term for a while where there were a number of companies, Heroku being one of them actually, they were called cloud fluffers. That was their business model. And they made it easier to consume the cloud.
Oh, yeah, I had a... Yeah, because like I was looking for a way to create that software marketplace inside of Freenet, and I was looking at other different alternatives. Because like if you create a template for a specific software, so you need somebody to maintain that, right? Because we have constantly update the operation system, software, and so on and so forth. So then I was checking companies. I'm not doing it. Okay, it's free advertisement. They are not paying. There is a company in Spain, the name is bhyvecon, and what they are doing, like they create something like a pipeline, and they provide a lot of like small VMs with softwares inside, like the example I gave, like with Redmine. So, and they are providing service like for Google, Amazon, Azure, like they got all these big tenders. And they are providing the solution. Like when you go to like Amazon, I want to launch this one with this software. So probably it's these guys behind. There is another company also that I spoke. I forgot the name, but it's also from Spain. I don't know what's wrong with those guys there. They like me that. And but like their main solution was mostly like similar like a PBI on PC BSD before, like many years ago. Like you close a software in a single binary for library and everything, and then you run. So that doesn't apply for us. But this is like a bhyvecon stuff. It's like I was very impressed with the work that they made, because they made all the infrastructure. That's what's quite hard for any other cloud company to create, because you need a lot of people. So and then they outsource that service for all these guys. And I think like for anything else, like probably like a performance stuff or whatever, like these guys might appear in the future, because that's the hot topic nowadays, right?
It's going to be a managed cloud provider. That's what it's going to be.
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly the thing. Like when it came up with we are going to the cloud or whatever. I don't know who coined it first. Anyway, probably Amazon or I don't know. Anyway, I always shock my customers when they say we are using the cloud, and they say, no, you don't. It's not your computers anymore. It's just them over there or over there. Like it's not really flexible. You are using Amazon. What is Amazon going bankrupt? Can't happen. Okay, what if Amazon goes, S3 goes down? It doesn't. Well, 4 weeks later it did. And say, okay, how fast can you move your cloud infrastructure to Google or Azure or Rackspace or, well, they are now bought by whatever. So they realize they are still in a lock-in.
Yeah.
Now it's no longer the physical lock-in here, but a vendor lock-in. Or if you say, okay, we are doing it ourselves with CloudStack or OpenNeo, then you have a technology lock-in. And there is no openness in that stuff.
Yeah, you need to if you have something that's really critical for your business, you need to have the plan B and plan C. You need to have you cannot rely on only one cloud provider, right?
Yeah,
so
but
you need to have a backup instance, and you are syncing everything to there. But it's still.
That's what I was saying about Universe A and Universe B.
Yeah,
Plan
definitely.
A and Plan B. The problem is you have a setup that's working in A, and it won't work in B because of whatever extra snowflakes.
So, as an example, this is a real easy one to pick on. In Amazon, you have security groups. You can control the ingress and egress flow of traffic into hosts. Okay, great. Other large
easy solution.
Host-based?
More or less. Ignore security groups, spin up open-based UVM, and let it deal with it.
It's hard to do when you've got tagging and other kind of complex integrations there, but
yeah, totally.
I know. But then go to other alternate cloud provider, Google, right? Large, very similar look and feel, and almost except for you can't filter egress, right? So all of your network semantics potentially and controls that network controls that you have in place for restricting network access, etc., you actually can't use over there because there's just that feature doesn't exist. So now you have to work around that somehow, or now you have to be aware. So lowest common denominator, then you're down to what? It's a very hard problem, and I don't fault Google for not having that. I actually think I have a decent understanding for why they haven't done it yet. But it's just not an easy problem. And not all features across all cloud providers are the same.
Yes?
I don't know, I was looking at
Oh, by the way, anyone would be going the way adding bhyve to Vagrant as provider and want some basic information about that? Hit me.
Adding it to what?
Bhyve.
To Vagrant. Vagrant?
That exists. That was a GSOC project 2 years ago. And it works, it apparently works really well. It requires PF and DH client, or not DH client, DNS mask. And it's got a good chunk of the Vagrant features, and so some people have had very good success with that. I have not looked into it personally after I found out some of its dependencies there, but I think that that's a very interesting project.
Looks like because the last time I was looking at the official list, it wasn't there, but last changed 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a GSOC student and got most of the way through the work there. Again, similar to what I was saying earlier with regards to Packer and whatever else, you have to have a prior knowledge of the firewall rules and IP and all that before you spin up the VM. That's no different with Vagrant. With the VPC and NAT functionality, that will change, and then this will just work out of the box. So.
Okay, so if anyone would be continuing it into the Well, it's not that incompatible, but the new bhyvecon 2.0 overall with new features and whatever.
I believe the name VMware has not come up once today, and I'm pretty impressed. For good. Has everyone who was using VMware successfully exited VMware? And if you are using something proprietary like Azure, Hyper-V, even Zen Server, what are the features keeping you on that proprietary alternative as opposed to one of the many open ones mentioned?
I can answer this.
You can answer this.
I don't use, but I can answer.
Okay.
Live migration.
Live migration. Live migration. Okay.
The pain of change anyway.
I use VMware Fusion for development.
Network static code. That's one.
What?
It just works.
Oh, yeah, no, that's the thing. It has a nice interface. Xhive does not.
Simplicity.
Yeah, exactly.
You just spin a VM, you do whatever you want to do.
And I don't have to do hypervisor development to use it. Right? Like if the operating system inside the hypervisor breaks, I don't have to ask myself, is it Xhive? Or is it VirtualBox? Or is it whatever?
But
I think it works.
But I have one funny story that I didn't tell. Like when we pushed that on FreeNAS, that VM Wizard actually was based on VMware. It's like because VMware you have a kind of like a wizard to create your VM. It's like it's 6 steps. Like I think my mom can do that. It's like everybody can launch a virtual machine, but then you go like I want to use this, I want to use that. Like you almost need to finish a PhD to be able to spin a VM. It's crazy.
You've seen the command line arguments for bhyve, right?
Oh my god.
And they're not even that bad.
Yeah, they are not that bad. Yeah.
They were saying over there, chemo will make you like cry.
Same for Hyper-V, same for other.
Yeah, Hyper-V is even nicer than Fusion, in my experience.
So my machine had a license for Windows 10 Pro, so I stuck on Windows 10 Pro and spun up Hyper-V at the command line in PowerShell. You need to like free a disk to be used by it, so it's not in any way hooked to the OS. I aimed it at my FreeBSD hard drive, and it worked. Flow console, it loaded VMM. I didn't have a guest handy to just see, do we have nested? That would be cool, but hey, power to them. It is indeed easy, to your point.
You have to enable that, and it's not 100% all there.
Good to know.
Specifically the way that...
Specifically?
Yeah, so specifically the way that...
It's off.
Might be off, sorry.
So you have to enable that feature, and it doesn't work for everything. One of the things that I noticed was that they do not pass through, let me think, they do not handle non-APIC interrupt injection through events. So basically what that means, if you try to put the OpenBSD hypervisor on top of it, you get all the way through autocomp and then it just sits there because it never gets any interrupts. I told them about it and I don't think they care.
Fair enough.
VMware Fusion also has nested perk. So if I do need to work on bhyve, I can work on it inside.
It's much better.
Yeah.
A significant amount of bhyve development was on Fusion. So says a birdie. So live migration and ease of use come out as on top for it. That said, realistically, how are we doing on live migration out of the university? Are there blockers? What will it look like? And from a user perspective, is sleep and move adequate? I forget your term, Mike, about sleep the VM and move it, and is that adequate for most people, or does it have to be absolutely interrupted? No one will ever know it's changed, etc., etc.
Here are two approaches. Basically, when we implemented the save mechanism, we basically only create, we put all the memory of the machine on copy on write. Each modification of the virtual machine from that point ongoing will create new pages. And the logic is somehow like this. Basically, make the memory copy on write, start sending it to the new host, and then you iterate again for the pages that were written, and you have to rewrite them. At some point, you have to have some milliseconds where you pause the VM and resume it on the host. But again, it's not enough just to pause the machine and move it, because if the machine has, let's say, 42 gigabytes of RAM, it's not so visible. At this point, basically, Elena, what he's trying to do is we are using a shared storage, NFS shared storage, because in live migration you don't save the block. We have this function, but we don't save the block device state. It basically saves the state of the machine, like Mike showed on OpenBSD, and then we store it on another guest. After this works well, we'll basically not using file to save the state, and we're using a direct socket connection, for example, between the bhyve processes. So it's pretty straightforward after that. But again, you have to work on making this efficient, because just pausing the machine and transferring the data isn't enough for live migration. And in the end is the switch working part. In the beginning, you don't have to do anything with the switches. Just consider that you have the same MAC address on the host, and at some point you will have some ART requests, and the MAC will move. From one switch to another.
One thing we were thinking about doing was using the page modification log.
Yes, I'm not aware of the bmapping terminals, so
It's a feature of the CPU where it will keep track of all the pages that we modify, and you can get a page modification interrupt. And the table fills up, so you don't have to keep scanning the PMAP over and over again.
So at some point, yes, you're right.
So I think like for the stage that we are now, like at least for bhyve, if you can do kind of like, you don't need to really have a live migration feature like ready to be used, but if you have something like a suspend, and you move, and you resume, I think like
this is work in progress, and in the next month, 2 months, we'll work on this. But this would be, let's say, trivially implemented, because we are not looking for CPU features and so on. So we should do what Mike did to create a CPU feature list and just resume it if we have those features. At this point, we are not doing these check-ins. We didn't, let's say, implemented the logic in there.
And this like is for both AMD and Intel, or only AMD?
We are now testing our VMX on Intel, but the logic for save restore is in there, and the live migration, I guess, it's arch independent at this point. I don't think so. From now on, it's arch independent. Just the save and restore state was arch dependent because AMD has other registers than Intel.
Okay, so then I have a offer to do for your students, like because like on FreeNAS we have like a kind of like a head version that we do a lot of experimental things, especially like with bhyve, like and we have like over 200 users, like they are quite voicey. So if you guys want to test this before commit on FreeBSD, so it's very welcome. Like you can push on FreeNAS and test. Usually like the users they give a very good feedback for us. That's what I would like to talk with you. Like I'm looking
it's
for
okay.
that.
So when we have a functional version, I will notify you. We also do, let's say, not so frequently basis to be sure that our patches apply on head easily once in 2 months, something like this. So when we submit a patch to have some applicable patches, let's say.
Okay.
So this won't be a problem in putting the patches on your head.
Yeah.
If you have a newer version. But at this point, we are trial and error, the live migration, because we started 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, and Elena found that our way of saving the memory was very slow. For 1 gigabyte, it took how much? 1 gigabyte of memory took 4 or 5 minutes. It was very, very slow.
Okay. Yeah.
What was the cause?
The implementation was something mapping the pages and then mem copying. And I re-implemented using a write and read approach. Read and write from files. And this reduced the time to 6 or 7 seconds.
Well, that's
so the mmap implementation should work better, but it had some features. We didn't try to investigate. We just use it. We just use read and write, and it worked better, and we continue with it. So of course, in our our goal is to create a proof of concept, not having the best code base or the best approaches in everything, but just make a proof of concept that works. This is our approach.
Did you guys check that project, the VPS project that was based on jail, on FreeBSD? No. So the guy has it's a very good live migration. It's like but only works because it's based on jail, right? It's only FreeBSD, and I tested that before. It's like it has resume and suspend. Like the jail came into the right state.
But it's more easily there because you have only the user space part in jail, so you don't have kernel state, device state, and so on.
Yeah, it has the network state, like it
yes, but it's more simple. Here you have, so for example, we fought a lot with the interrupt control states and so on. So it's very hard to debug. They are very low level code, and we lost 2 or 3 weeks and at one such device at some point because we didn't restore memory offset. Okay, so basically the harder this project is in debugging.
Yeah, that's true.
What is considered the gold standard of live migration, if there is such a thing? VMware? The gold standard. Who has it right?
I think it's VMware.
VMware.
vSphere.
vSphere is the one to...
I'm also using Hyper.
Zen is very good, but like
also Hyper-V.
problem with Zen.
Are you using FreeBSD Zen with migration? Apparently it's there. Best kept secret.
Is it Linux?
No.
No?
Yeah. No, I'm not using FreeBSD for .0 because we are on Zen 4.10 now, and we don't support Zen 4.10 on FreeBSD .0 because we need PVH v2.0, and yeah, that's why we stuck with 4.7 for FreeBSD.
Okay, also Hyper-V has very good approach in live migration. It works very well. As I was saying earlier, we had a lot of guests, and their cluster service approach works very well. So whenever, for example, we have two approaches. We're doing live migration when we want to update a node, just click live migration and it migrates the node without any interruption of the network or anything. Or the other case when a node typically fails. So for example, we unplug the node. At that point, it has a service where it sees that a node left the cluster and automatically starts the guest on another. So both VMware and Microsoft at this point has very good cluster services when talking about virtualization. From my point of view, I've tested both, and honestly, I like VMware is easy to use, but it also costs a lot of money. For example, we choose Microsoft not because I like a lot of Windows or so on, it's because for the university it was free.
Yeah.
As many licenses as we want. The VMware just give us a license for 4 servers, each with 1 socket, and I didn't have what to do on our cluster with that.
Yeah, but I like for VMware, I think the most impressive demo that I saw, like for live migration, because before I used to work with Asterisk, just many years ago. It's like an IPv6, and usually a human being is like you can see the delay of everything, like especially voice. So and like I saw they're doing a live migration in between 2 different counts of IPv6 and with a call. It's like they're doing the live migration, and like you don't see any clinch, you don't see any loss, you don't see anything.
To be honest, at this point, all 4 hypervisors, so Hyper-V, SXC, KVM, and Zen are able to do this just fine. With Zen and KVM, the problem is that there aren't any open source tools that to do this. Just click, and you have to write a lot of command lines and so on. What are you using to migrate Zen virtual machines? Manually, or you have some tool?
We have some tool.
Yes, of course. Everyone
some
has-
Python script.
But the question was like, do we all need a super live migration? We have a contrary pattern to that, and that is build more redundancy in the application or whatever service you are doing, because
That doesn't work.
the other day the node will fail or whatever.
Yeah.
So
No, you're selling a VM to a customer. You cannot say to him, okay, you need to buy 2 VM.
yeah.
Do some
Of course, no.
You cannot say that to him.
Hang on, I'm perfectly fine that there is a need for it, but if you are able in the situation to design an application or infrastructure, service, whatever, stop relying on 100% uptime, because that's the thing behind live migration. That's just what I'm saying.
The biggest problem with
Of course, if you have a single VM service because the customer is doing whatever on that, he will appreciate that you can live migrate. That's not the thing. But if you are being an architect, don't rely on live migration because it will bite you the other day.
There are a few
I'm done.
There are very few architects, when talking about application and usage of application on those VMs. So even in the university, we have a lot of applications that, but they aren't made well, and you have very few such persons. Okay, this would be ideal to create an application that is able to run on multiple servers at the same time, but it doesn't happen a lot. And also, from my sysadmin experience, when you have an application that is capable of running on multiple nodes, it brings you a lot of trouble. For example, MySQL, replicating MySQL or SQL databases.
Yeah.
When something nasty happens, it takes you a lot of time. It takes you a lot of time to recover from that. And this is why some people want to keep the things simpler. And if live migration gives them, let's say, 98% uptime, it fails. So if it fails a very small amount of time, it will take that instead of complicated things. So it depends on the user perspective here.
I think like it's for everything. Like you got containers, you got microservices, you got everything, right? So like you need to have a plan B for everything. And in the end, like most of the case, like okay, you have the run instance here, and you have a backup instance there, and you try to sync in somehow. It's like a Word room, the file system, or like a Word database, it's getting very complex. It's like but I agree with you in one thing. If you could have like a kind of like a universal solution that I can move my stuffs from here and I can move my stuffs for there, or I can import my stuffs from here and import to that different platform. That would be the nirvana of everything, right?
Are any of those current projects within the reach of like a FreeBSD or OpenBSD Foundation grant to make a significant step forward, or is this a question of massive funding? What magic wand could make a significant step forward take place? Is it a question of funding from a foundation, or does it need to be far larger than what?
What's missing to conclude the project?
If someone threatened you with money, is it how much money or how much time? Which one? If that's the number one.
It depends. Bear in mind that right now, Elena is working on this part-time on her master project. So there will be more money. Maybe she will work full-time, for example. For example, the summer comes, okay, and in the summer she doesn't have other things to do, like classes and so on, and she would work full-time. Yes, of course, money will advance things. But even for these few money, so the scholarships are $500 a month, so $500 a month, and they have to work 25 hours a week. Okay. Okay. So this is let's say even for Romanian market in IT, it's a very low rate. Okay. So of course money will improve, let's say, going things forward, but also support from the community, and especially for Beehive maintainers, will also bring in some value, because we had debugging problems where the hypervisor crashed and we didn't have any ideas because we didn't implement those part of the hypervisor. And
triple fault. Triple fault. I got a triple fault. It's like nobody can help us anymore.
Yes, there were some easy bugs, let's say, that could help us some perspective from the community at some point. And we sent mails on the list, but no one responded, or we tried to talk with Peter, because actually Peter is the only person I know that is actively working, and whenever I asked him, he got me the right answer back. But he's very busy. And
yeah, there is a group now.
Yes, I know. I heard about the group at bhyvecon, but from then until now I didn't hear anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is a group right now that I think it started last September or October, and basically now we have 5 people. It's it's Peter. He's the leader of the project. It's Tico Nightless. I never know how to pronounce his name.
Tico Nightingale.
Yeah, he works for Dell, and he wrote a lot of code on Beehive, like RFB. He wrote I think it was Pro Beehive or UFI, a niche that made all the EMB stuffs for Beehive. Rodney Greens and myself, because I'm moving for IX system. It's I think you will be quite valuable to join this group as well, because we have usually we do bi-weekly meetings, so we discuss everything, all the patches that are going on, issues that are going on, and we try to make a work group.
Peter proposed me a commit bit, but again, if I get this commit bit, I can only, let's say, make decisions when talking about Beehive R because I work in there. But I cannot take these decisions about Beehive x86 because I don't know what I would break. I don't know very well the code base. Okay.
Yeah.
And I can help, but it depends. Again, I'm depending on the community.
Yeah, I think I will talk about myself. I cannot talk about this this Beehive group. I talk about by myself. So I think Peter is the guy that knows more about the Beehive nowadays. He knows every piece of coding everywhere, and we can see there is a filter, right? Because there are not only your guys' patch, there's a lot of patches out there. So and there's a lot of things ready to be used. It's when you spoke about a libvirt, and it's no, it was not libvirt. Anyhow, I forgot, 2 years already. But you asked me during my presentation, have you tried this one, for the OpenStack? And they're yeah, there is Roman Boborodsky, he made a lot of patches, and for many years, the things are right there to be used. You can get his patches nowadays, maybe you need to update one thing or another, and and just commit. The same with this, the audio emulation driver. I think it was one of your students, was a lot of style stuffs to be fixed, and then I closed that review, I opened a new one, and I fixed all the styles, and there is only a few things to get done, to be committed. Peter said he gave you the okay already, he said just put cap sync and everything will be good. But then I switched my focus to other things, I didn't have time to do that anymore. And there is a filter for that. And I think Peter's going to a good direction because his point of view is he doesn't want people has a bad experience. Okay, somebody, even myself, will say okay, it's we are having a bad experience because I need to write a command line this size, and that's a bad experience, I think, in my point of view. But I'm not talking of him about I'm not talk for himself, but what I understood, he has a very conservative approach. He doesn't want things to break. he knows there are bugs, and he wants to fix those things before insert new features. He knows there's a lot of things around. I don't know the solution. Sometimes I had the same frustration, like there is a good story about a lead UCL. So you want to do a config file that you type some stuff and you load the VM, or like you create a VM or whatever. I think like the first patch was like a 2015. I don't remember. So like Alan Jr. was talking about create this. I came back home and I made a very something based on Zen. And then after like Alan Jr. like improved the things like for JSON and everything, and it still didn't get in. And I still like it's getting my nerves. Like you have that VM run. That's a shell script. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not against shell script. I'm just bad with shell script. So like you have that VM run, and you don't have a management tool. And I feel, as I remember, I think like it was 2015 or 2016 that the OpenBSD guys, they showed the VMCTL man page. Like I was like, dude, that's what everybody wants. That's my feeling, my personal feeling. So I know there's a lot of things stuck, but there are progress on that.
Yeah, it's so we built a version that could do configs in 2015. Yours was very basic, and then I extended it to be more. But then when we talked to Peter about it, the issue was it wasn't flexible enough and expressive enough to go forward with what he had in mind for the USB virtualization and pass-through and GPU pass-through and things like that. But so I was like, okay, so give me an idea of what you want it to look like. And he was going to give me a prototype config file of something much more complicated, but that would provide what we wanted. But then it's kind of been 3 years, and the features haven't materialized in either.
Last time you tried to push again was what? Last year?
I pushed the old one up a little while ago when just to share it with Rod Grimes because he wanted to see it. Because he wanted to add the CPU topology stuff to it. I understood Peter's objection in that as soon as we ship a config file, everybody's going to start using it, and they'll be very upset if we change the config file to be completely different.
But at
the same time, it's been 3 years with no config file.
So I have a point for that. Like, software evolves. Yeah. So to be able to do something better, you need to break things. So like
yes, but I would admit the users really hate it when you do that.
Yeah, but of course you cannot break in a way that oh, you're gonna really break dramatically. But if you see in the past 3 years, which new flags we have inside the behind. So if you have a JSON,
they would work fine.
Yeah, but of course if you
when USB finally shows up, it wouldn't have fit with what I built.
No,
yeah. Part of the problem is that I don't have the mental map that Peter has of what he wants Beehive to look like, and I couldn't get him to write it down.
No, but I agree. I agree in a way. Like, if you have like if you agree to have a standard, like okay, we choose like let's say JSON. That will be the JSON format. Like, okay, you have a new device. You add the new device there. So like, but if
I guess it was more about what the device will look like in JSON. It sounded like what Peter had in mind looked more almost not like a flattened device tree, but actually the hierarchy of here's a PCI bus, and then there's ports on it, and there's devices connected to it.
But again, why reinventing the wheel? Why just using libvirt, which is so I don't understand why why a new config file, because that one is a standard one and it's used nowadays.
Yeah, like I
well, but like no other hypervisor uses libvirt directly. Yeah. It's the libvirt config file then invokes the other hypervisor.
Like an
example, all hypervisors.
Like
Hyper-V, for example.
Yeah, like an example, like I would say, like when you ask me about like a libvirt and OpenStack, like actually my answer would be like I never saw anybody installing a full OpenStack solution. For me, like OpenStack doesn't work.
I have a production environment.
Who installed that? Red Hat, because the only company that I saw, because even Canonical, like I remember I had a a different project in a different place. Like the Canonical guys went there, they stayed like 2 weeks, and the end they were hopeless. They couldn't implement OpenStack solution for us. And,
so I have a working deployment of OpenStack in the university with more than 100 nodes in 3 data centers. We have more than 5 terabytes of RAM, total RAM, and we have a lot of VMs. So the students are doing some of the labs or homework on that VMs, on those VMs. We also run big workloads from the grid from CERN. We are receiving jobs in there. So we have a pretty, let's say, stable OpenStack environment. Of course, it's very hard to install the initial installation and the upgrades. Right now I need to upgrade, and it's very hard because I missed the last 3 versions, and they don't have support for for mine anymore.
So you need to update?
Yes, because they're releasing every 6 months about a new version, and it's very hard to keep up.
So okay, I have one question. But it's like because maybe I'm not a native speaker, so like maybe I'll make the question for long words. But it's like what do you think? Like you have a lot of students behind you. Like an example, like as I mentioned, like the VNC authentication was a Google Sum of Code project, and it was there. I don't know like for how long, and I just revived the patch. And actually the patch was was workable. It's like it was quite good code. Some style problems and some things that you could reduce and redo a bit to be more performatic, but nothing that will impact the functionality. And I was surprised because I sent an email to the student, and the student was like very proactive, and he was like very happy. Oh, okay, so this will get in, and it took me like a couple days just to fix styles, and I rewrote the small stuff, and it's getting. So, what do you think should be, in your opinion, what should be done, like to get things moving forward? Or like, what's the blocks, what's the barriers, like which kind of ideas? Like maybe from here, I think that here is the best opportunity because like everybody is using Beehive. I'm very interested with Beehive. Like I'm earning my daily life for Beehive.
It's very hard to convince students to work on Beehive. First of all, they didn't heard about BSD, some of them, and the second question is why using FreeBSD? Because we have Linux, we have Windows, and they fulfill all our needs. Why using other operating system, which is not so well known? And when we explain them, oh, okay, about the license, about the FS, about the networking stack, they don't fully understand because they didn't get in the place where FreeBSD would make a real difference. So, I don't know. The students, Alex, Elena, and Darius, are working on this because they like kernel programming, and they didn't get to do anything on Linux because on Linux there are big companies that are contributing, and it's more hard to contribute. But here they had another opportunity to develop a hypervisor, some drivers, the opportunity that they didn't have on the other operating systems. And the community that would want this future, not just let's implement the hypervisor and throw it away. Yeah. So again, like I was saying in my slides, they enjoy kernel programming and they are doing something useful. Even in the companies, when you get employed, you don't do anything else about that, only drivers, because they want a new feature. Okay, get a new driver, and here they learn a lot more. Okay. Again, I don't know what could be more. So for example, for me, the scholarship helped me a lot because they didn't get employed in the masters and they remained in the university where I have working places for them. So from the university part, I forgot to say this, we have a research building where we have a lot of offices, computers. So basically the logistic part is ensured by the university. I should have mentioned this because it's an important thing. And with these scholarships, they basically can go to classes, return work, and so on. They have other colleagues which are employed, they are employed full-time and they are barely getting to the classes. They are very tired because they are working 8-9 hours, then 1 hour the road from the workplace to the school and so on. So for me, the scholarships were let's say, a differentiator at this point. I guess we have to find better arguments why using bhyve and FreeBSD. To be understandable by let's say by people that aren't so, let's say, in-depth in the industry, because they are at the beginning.
But have you ever get in touch, like an example, like an IX system? Because like we are using bhyve, so like you have people that like if you have more financial support, they can work more hours in this project. It's kind of like for me, like this resume suspend. Even if you don't have the live migration done, like the resume suspend. As soon as you say, okay, we can resume and suspend. So I will take that for granted, and I'm gonna launch as a new feature like on FreeNAS and TrueNAS.
But so basically, I guess you can take the patches from there and put it in the FreeNAS and test it because it works. So at this point,
it works.
Save and restore, it works.
Okay.
So it does the same thing.
Feature then.
It does the same thing Mike presented for OpenBSD. It doesn't migrating, but it works.
Okay. Well, we should exchange some emails offline. Okay. For.
So you have the links on the slides and.
Great. Great.
Oh, that's good news for us too.
Yeah.
That's
not only me.
Elena's work.
Yes, but
you are the future.
Yes, but
what's her email address? I need the slide.
No, what's your PayPal account?
So the slides will be public. You have the email address in there. But also last year I made the live demo here with the 70 store, and also with bhyvecon. That was a more, let's say, initial. Right now the code base is it's cleaner than that, and we also have the MD support.
Which guesses did you do the suspended result?
FreeBSD, we didn't test it on.
So you didn't test it for Linux, Windows?
No, we didn't test for Linux.
And you think like it will have, by your experience, write this code, like it might have some problem with like a Windows? And
if it's using Vertile drivers, I don't think so.
For everything, virtual IO net, virtual IO disk?
Yes, we had the Vertile net console, disk.
NVMe?
And? Sorry?
The NVMe driver?
Again?
NVMe.
No, I don't guess
That's
so.
quite
no.
new.
No.
It's pretty new.
No.
Okay.
So we did only the basic. We only the memory initially, and then the Vertile driver, the console. We need the net and the block.
We have two. We want to. We're not using it yet. NVMe would be interesting. So it's per driver. You have to implement suspend functionality.
I guess I don't know the code base. Do we have a jank interface for this or not? I guess it's a port driver, but we should have some generic callbacks to be implemented by the drivers. But it's a port driver because its driver has its own state that needs to be restored.
I'd be interested in testing it.
Okay. So the code is there. You can clone the repo, compile it, and if you have any issues, we'll happily debugging together. This.
Okay. Yeah, and you can even share some efforts, like because I'm paying you to do bhyve stuff. So like all these tests, like Windows, Linux, different flavors, different kernels, it's great.
Okay. For us, you probably will find a lot of bugs. For us, again, we are paid to get as many features as we can because they want to see status reports. And if you report that you worked on a bug for 3 weeks, it's not so pleasant for the one that is financing this. So again, you'll find bugs probably.
Who's financing?
BSD Foundation.
Okay. Foundation people?
No. So sorry. So the foundation people are financing Navigate and Vertile. Seven History is financed by a single person, Matthew Rooms, who wanted this feature. I don't know what it's his relation with the foundation. I guess at some point he wanted to give money to the foundation for this feature, and the foundation said, okay, we receive money, but you don't decide what we are doing with that money, because it's not fair. And I guess this is normal, because
it's the legal way.
Yep. Okay, and at some point he contacted me that he wanted me to implement this. I said I don't have time, but I have students. We have a non-profit organization to which we can give scholarships, and the collaboration started from there. So we are collaborating with him from 2016. I don't know if he has any, let's say, commercial profit interest in here, but for 1.5 years he contributed a lot.
But I can assure to you, it's lots of people that want to see that, at least the resume suspending in the future there. It's maybe some miscommunications, it's not well advertised, and people...
Yes, actually the status reports, Elena is giving weekly status reports, and that they are given only to Matthew, because he doesn't mind, I doesn't mind if we give the status report more publicly, it's okay.
No, not saying that's your side, but because bhyve is a FreeBSD feature, right? Maybe something that could improve it at the FreeBSD side with all this, when you sponsor somebody, do something outdoor.
And also
blog and everything. But it's I can tell
okay, and another discussion we have a discussion between Peter, me, and Matthew when Flavius and the other students finished implementing for Intel, for Peter to create an official branch for the safety store, but that stopped there. And also Matthew was a little frustrated because at least we should have a testing branch in order for people to know and make.
What's the name of the guy?
Matthew Grooms.
Matthew, okay.
I don't know. He just contacted me.
Some guy that giving money.
Yeah, some guy that is giving money.
Bitcoin.
With no.
Okay, great.
The direct profit is the interest.
So she's still available. If anybody else help you for financial.
Yes, she's available. Again, for example, from the summer, we can increase number of hours. Maybe Darius should finish working overtime. He will be also available. So let's say
you have a schedule. You have a schedule.
Yes, right now we're starting a new round of financing with Darius until June with the foundation on the overtime to finish.
Let's finish that conversation over the amazing Asia BSDCon tomorrow and the next day. I swear you, and you will all be there, on stage, so you can't hide.
Okay, so the next, let's say the next month available will be in July. We don't have any contracts from July.
Okay.
And Alex is going to work for ARM from July. He had an interview with them, and also ARM asked us when we will bring up bhyve ARM on the mainline. So ARM is likely interested in this. I know when I was in Cambridge 2 years ago also, they helped me with some licensing at some point. And also they are interested in this.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thank you.
Good work. One last one. Again, these conversations can continue the next 2 days and online.
I'll make it brief. So my question to the students is, what are your plans to continue this work? I mean, you developed these nice features and everyone is looking forward to them, but these features need to be, maintained, developed, updated, bugs need to be fixed. My question to you is basically, are you interested in becoming FreeBSD committers or getting more? I mean, you also probably looking for jobs in the industry, and my question is more sustainability in these areas. Any plans? One of mine?
Actually, really like working on porting bhyve to ARM8. I really liked the job that I did and the code that I wrote. And I'm planning to have bhyve on ARM8 accepted in the FreeBSD mainline code. This is one of the goals for the financing period that I received, and I'm going to start in a few weeks after I'm coming back to Romania from the conference. And after that, actually this means that I need to have bhyve the Beehive guest not use wired memory and use the kernel purging mechanism for the guest memory. And that's the biggest, and we, of course, do interrupt controller. I need to virtualize the generic interface generic interrupt controller. And after that, I plan to push Beehive for ARMv8 to be integrated into the FreeBSD mainline. Basically, you would at that point you would have a working virtual machine with only one single CPU assigned to it. Afterwards, I think the next step would be to be able to create a virtual machine that uses more than one virtual CPU. This will greatly increase performance. And afterwards, I'm not really sure.
So actually what he asked is, after you accomplish all of this, what will be your, let's say, your will be dedicated time in order to solve bugs to the peer from the community and so on. So you would maintain this code or not?
Yes, I would like to do that. I actually like to do that. Maybe not as a committer because I think that's a lot of responsibility. I'm not sure if I would do a good job or it's not.
You get the patch from other people and they just like
oh, okay. But I thought it would be hard.
No, it's all volunteer. You can do an R support. You can do the commit.
Oh, okay.
I can't even write C.
Okay, so yeah, I would like to maintain Beehive and ARMv8 afterwards. After the financing part is done, I hopefully get it integrated into the FreeBSD mainline code.
So I wanted to add something to complete the answer. You were asking more about the generic question. It's very hard for them to work only for 3 or 6 months, and then you would have expectations for them to become committers. Well, about them maintaining the code, as if the code gets integrated in the mainline, I'm sure each of them, if they will receive a mail with a bug, they will solve it and get the patch to the maintainer. So about the maintainability, I can guarantee for their availability wherever they will be. So they would do this. But it's very hard for them to ask them, for example, from master, when they have little financing, again, so we must compare what they are receiving as a scholarships with what the industry gives. In Romania, if they finish the master at this point, they'll get $2,000 in hand with no questions. You have to put money in questions here. You cannot live with there. Yes. So this is because a lot of us are working in companies which are earning and are letting us to do open source stuff, and this is pretty cool.
But I can tell you an example, like with the new bootloader. I will give an example like with a Lua bootloader, because actually it's a guy from Brazil as well. He's a Google Summer of Code student that he wrote the first part of Lua stuff, and then like I think I met him here. Was 2014. He came to Asia bhyvecon, and it was like a award for him to make that contribution for this thing. Okay, like a couple weeks ago, we have the Lua bootloader. So one and Wash finished all this stuff, and the project was there. And I don't know how we can help more, because the point is that you have these students, they are working in school, and if they just dump the code there, and sometimes like it's 98% ready to be finished, right? But they need to maintain. And if they don't maintain, it's somehow
this is why I was asking all the patches with Beehive ARM to be, because it's the third or fourth time when we are doing rebasing, and it's a nightmare because a lot of things change on ARM code base with the new interrupt modes of new mode of controlling the interrupt and so on, and it's a nightmare because every time we rebase, everything breaks.
Yeah.
And this is why maybe we should. I don't know. We should have a policy of bringing things a little faster.
Yeah, my question is like, because this new bootloader, it almost got rotten. And then somebody, I don't know why Warner Losh came up and said, okay, yeah, he revived the things.
There was a second person named Pedro that...
Yeah, Pedro's from Brazil.
Right, Pedro wrote it, and a different guy also named Pedro updated it,
Yeah.
and then Warner picked it up, and then Ed Mass co-op student worked on it, and Kyle Evans worked on it, and then finally it got committed.
So I know that some money is an incentive for everybody.
Well, yes, we have to get shit
Yeah, but like
upstreamed into FreeBSD because it makes it a lot easier.
yeah, back in my time, like long years ago, like my main dream was I need to have that at freebsd.org. I felt very cool, like oh, it's like the guys
Yes,
amazing.
so all of
so maybe
all of them have this incentive, but you have this incentive for 6 months, and when you see that nothing happens and it's not on your plate, sincerely use this incentive at some point, especially if you are hired at a company and you are having a lot of work on a different job. So again, we can win their incentive by making things a little faster, and the code they write to be there, to be publicly available and used, and they will surely engage after that.
I will put foundation a bad.
No, not yet. Let me finish with that.
Well, my work is finished here. Are there any final thoughts from anybody? Or see you tomorrow morning bright and early. Thank you, and thank you IIJ for providing this amazing space and a significant portion of the food and drink. And I'll see you at the next bhyvecon, wherever that may be.
Thanks for the answer.